I've been running a social media marketing agency for the last 6 months or so now. And so, like everyone else out there, I decided to make a generic clickbait video just to tell you about my experience and to tell you to buy my course at the end of this video. Just kidding. Now, spoiler alert, it went pretty decent. In this video, I want to share some of the lessons I learned along my journey, some of the things I thought I did wrong, some of the things I thought I did right, and whether it actually makes sense for you, a beginner, to run a social media marketing agency in 2023. So let's go back to when I started my agency, right? So this was back in August, which, right after my first 2 weeks, I got my first clients, which I made a video about. But the thing is, after that first clients, I actually didn't sign any clients for the next 2 months. So from the beginning of August to the end of October, I had basically no clients. I was working with 1K per month, and yeah, that was kind of sad. At the end of October, I did sign a few low ticket clients. One of them did kind of ditch me. So the end result was an extra 1K per month. So now I was making 2K per month at the end of October, which was kind of cool. And then November, things started to pick up. Right at the beginning of the month, I signed another client, and I signed like 3 or 4 more towards the end of the month, and that left me with a total of 8.8K in revenue for the month of November. And finally, in December, that's when I hit my first 10K month, as you may have seen in my last video. But basically, I signed like a bunch of new clients. A lot of them were not monthly recurring revenue, so they were kind of just one-time setup fees, which is why I kind of had to sign a bunch of new clients to make the 10K. But I did hit my goal, and if you guys don't believe me, here's my dashboard. I don't normally like doing this, but as an SMMA YouTuber, I do have the fiduciary duty to show you guys that I'm somewhat legit, right? So here you can see December 1st to December 1st. I'm going to change it to December 1st to December 31st. As you can see, 10.55, which is basically 10.6K for the month of December. So yeah, now I'm legit. Yay. So now that you know I'm kind of legit, let's talk about some of the lessons that I learned, especially some of the mistakes that I made. Mistake number one, which I made, I was just trying to spam a bunch of outreach sales calls without really considering who I was talking to or what I was saying, and I wasn't trying to improve my metrics or trying to like keep track of everything. And so basically I was just doing the same shit over and over again with no improved results, which is why I got no new clients in the first 2 months. Like, here's the thing, guys, right? Like, I talk about this in pretty much all my videos where I talk about outreach, but you have to track everything. You have to measure everything. You have to constantly improve your metrics and find a way to basically improve yourself as an entrepreneur to make sure that you're, basically improving your business and getting more sales. The second thing, which is kind of similar, maybe even contradictory to that, is that I was not doing enough outreach every single day when I was just first starting out. I was only doing outreach on Upwork, so I was doing like, maybe 10 to 15 per day at the beginning. Eventually I upped it to like 20 to 25, which was still not a crazy amount considering how much I do now, or was doing a month ago, because I don't do much right now for specific reasons. But basically, you have to do a lot of outreach, especially when you're just starting out. If you want to get data for you to actually improve upon and like actually track and measure and all that kind of stuff, you need data. Like, you actually have to put in the volume and see like what is going wrong, what kind of feedback am I getting. If you're only putting in like 10 outreach a day, you're not actually getting that much feedback, even though you think you are. And this is going to take you like hours per day, right? Now, I do recommend you try to outsource the lead generation as fast as possible, but even just doing the outreach itself will take you maybe 1 to 2 hours per day. Lead generation may take you another 1 to 2 hours per day. But that's just what it's like when you're starting out, right? Now, again, Upwork is a kind of good way to bypass that, but it's definitely not a good way to scale once you have like 1 or 2 clients. Now, the third mistake I made was trying to follow templates and scripts from courses way too much. I bought like 1 or 2 courses when I just started out. I basically downloaded all their scripts. I did it word for word or almost word for word, and it did work, right? I did get the occasional sales call and a bunch of positive responses here and there, but at the end of the day, the conversion rates were just so low, and it's not something I actually realized until I went back and looked at, and after having improved my outreach, improved all my metrics, I realized how bad it was when I was actually just copy pasting all these templates that I found online. And the lesson from that is that you do have to make your messaging your own, right? When you read off a script during a sales call, when you are basically copy pasting cold emails or proposals on Upwork, it's not that hard to tell. Like, people can tell you're just spamming people. You haven't taken the time to actually look up their business, look up their posting or whatever, and it's going to affect your results. So as soon as possible, when you get a template, obviously study it, maybe even use it a few times, but try to make your own as soon as possible, because it's just going to hurt your results and conversion rates so bad when you don't try to do that personalization and customization. And this applies to more than just kind of your voice, right? This is like about your niche, your service, even your agency, your branding. All of these things will affect the messaging that you have, not only in your outreach, but also the way you talk in your sales calls and just the way you kind of put your brand image out there. So keep these things in mind when you're just starting out. Now, let's talk about some of the things I feel like I did right. And the first thing, which I do talk about in some of my other videos, is just relentlessly taking action. Like, I started outreach on basically like day 2 of starting my agency. I had no website, I had no like logo or anything. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna start sending emails. And obviously I didn't get a whole lot of responses, but it did put me me in the right mindset, and it did give me the right momentum to actually start getting responses and to start getting sales calls. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that I didn't stop outreaching until I hit my first 10K month. I was outreaching 6 days per week, every single day for 5 months nonstop. But if you think that's crazy, like that's what it's going to take for you to get off the ground if you have no idea what you're doing. My results are by no means like phenomenal, but if you're an average dude, like this is probably what it's going to take for you to even get some level of results. Also, to add to that, I stopped doing outreach in the month of January, or I started doing a lot less. I've got only one client in January. Now, there are other reasons for that. I have kind of changed my client acquisition strategy, but nevertheless, do your outreach and start taking action as soon as possible, and only on the most important actions. Now, the next thing I feel like I did right is hiring the right people or good people as soon as possible. Now, I did make some hiring mistakes when I just started out, but you're bound to make these mistakes, but you want to make sure you fire them as soon as possible. That's just how business is, especially when you don't know what you're doing at the start. So I do feel like I was, kind of good in finding the right people, having a very thorough interview process, and it has paid off in my business, and they have made my lives a lot easier. Next is kind of building on what I was saying earlier, which is I was tracking a lot of my outreach and sales calls results very early on. Now, of course, for the first month or so, I wasn't doing it, but the moment I started tracking everything and started trying to improve my metrics, I started to notice very, very noticeable improvements in both my outreach conversion rates as well as my closing rates. And now the last point that I feel like I did right, which may not resonate with everyone, depending on where you're at, is I reinvested pretty much 100%, probably even 200% of my profits into courses and coaching and mentorship. Now, when I say 200%, I mean I was basically paying for courses with my credit card that I didn't actually have the money for in my bank account yet. So I was basically paying for $3,000 to $5,000 courses or coaching or mentorship when I was only making 1 to 2K a month. So basically, for the next few months, I was scrambling to find new clients to pay off the courses that I paid for the month before. Again, I don't recommend this for everyone. I thought it was worth it. It definitely was for me. And that's kind of thing, right? If you have a lot of time but not a lot of money, then you're probably going to be better off just trying to figure it out on your own, at least for the first few months. But if you're like me, you maybe have a job where you're not going to go underwater if you can't pay off your courses, I would recommend at least reinvesting into yourself as soon as possible if you want to save time and kind of fast track your progress. One thing to kind of keep in mind, which I talked about in a previous video, is that no amount of courses or mentorship or whatever is going to make you successful, right? You're going to have to put in the work yourself. You're going to have to actually implement what you learn, and you're still going to have to do hours of outreach and sales calls every single day. Nothing's going to change that fact. But again, I just wanted to know as much as possible and just kind of make sure that I was confident in basically offering my service and just running my agency. That's up to you whether you want to invest in courses. I personally like to do it that way. So now let's talk about some of my just biggest general lessons overall. First one is you're going to have to put in the work. There's no way around it. There's no fast track or shortcut to success. Of course, you can buy courses, you can pay for mentorship, but again, you're going to have to put the work in. You're going to have to do the outreach. You're going to have to make a bunch of mistakes and fail, because a lot of the lessons you're going to learn as an agency owner, as a business owner, or just life in general are going to come from your own experience and your own mistakes. That can only come from actually taking the action every single day. You're going to have to learn a bunch of new skills on your own. You're going to have to get out of your comfort zone a lot of the time. A lot of people, especially like myself, who have a little bit of, social anxiety, who are introverted, are not going to want to get rejected by people 20 times every single day, right? But it's something you're going to have to get used to, or at least get comfortable with, even if you don't like it. Honestly, when it comes to running an agency, no part of running an agency is technically difficult. If you just put in the hours, you just put in the time to learn and get practice in, you will be able to run a successful agency. There's no doubt about it. There's literally nothing that's oh my God, you need to be a genius to understand how this works. No, it's you can learn about it in 2 hours, and then you spend the next 2 months getting good at it. And that's just how it works. If you have the right mindset, if you have the right habits, and you just put in the reps every single day, you will be successful as an agency owner. It may take 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 years, but it will happen. Now, the next thing I learned, which is pretty important for business and life in general, is that if you have your client's best interests at heart, you will usually both win in both the short term and the long term. First of all, it'll be way easier to close people on sales calls because you'll actually give a shit about them, and it'll usually show. You don't have to fully fake it. On top of that, your long-term actions are going to be a lot more geared towards actually growing your business, growing your client's business. And again, it's going to be well aligned for both parties, and it will usually show in either results or either the intentions, even if you can't get them good results. And finally, which is something I've learned a lot more recently, is that, when you are a lot more honest and focused on just getting your clients results, you're going to make a lot less stupid decisions, and you're going to turn down businesses that are not a good fit for your service or for your agency. Because when you turn down people that are genuinely not a good fit for you, you're not going to be able to help them. You're going to save both of you a lot of time and pain and money down the road. Again, business is about providing value for people. It's about serving people, especially when it comes to being an agency. You are a service business, right? So as long as you keep that in mind, you will do well in the long run. And finally, the last thing I learned is that you have to stand out. I know a lot of people try to teach you just follow this strategy, just do this niche, this service, and you'll be successful. But that couldn't be further from the truth, right? Even if you are in a saturated niche, or even if you're in a standalone niche, you're going to have to stand out in some way, whether it's your offer, it's your branding, your messaging, or your experience. Something has to make you look different from everyone else. Otherwise, you're going to look like the other 30 marketing emails they get every single day, and they're not going to give a shit about you. And now, the final question. Is running being an SMMA worth it in 2023? Yes, obviously. But there are a few things to keep in mind as a beginner. First, of course, is outreach and sales. There's nothing that's going to make you money as an agency other than actually outreaching, prospecting, and getting people on the phone with you and actually closing those people on the phone. Like there's no other way you're going to actually grow your business. And again, I closed my first clients without a website, without a contractor, like nothing. I was on Upwork. I was like, I'll do this for you. And they're like, cool. And I was like, shit, I have to hire people now and build a website. Again, you just have to take action, and you have to take action on the right things over and over again. And that's really all you need to do as a beginner. And even for me right now, like I'm doing not enough outreach, not enough sales calls, and it's definitely showing in my agency's performance. The next thing is pretty obvious, but never stop learning. No matter how high you go, no matter how much money you make, there's always something to learn. And the moment you stop like trying to improve and stop progressing with either your metrics, your conversion rates, your just general like expertise, that's the moment your business starts dying. And that's kind of the thing, right? Even as you're doing hours of outreach and sales every single day, you also have to spend like hours learning, watching videos, and taking courses. And that's just part of the deal. If you don't constantly try to improve yourself, if you don't constantly try to improve your knowledge and your skills, you're gonna fall behind, or you're just gonna start to die. And finally, I want to touch on one more thing, which is hiring. Like when you're just starting out, it's gonna be very tempting to pay someone like the lowest possible amount of money. But the problem with that is that when you pay someone very, very low, it's gonna show in the quality of it. So if you're gonna hire good people, obviously you still want to keep at least a pretty solid profit margin of at least 50%. But at the very least, you want to make sure that you're hiring someone who is competent and is gonna have your business's best interest in mind. Because the thing is, bad people will ruin your business and your reputation faster than you can think, right? And a lot of the time, if you're a beginner, you don't even know someone is bad, especially if they're like a contractor doing a service delivery. You're not even gonna know they're bad until they've like fucked up a bunch of different things. And then now you're probably gonna lose a client, you're gonna lose a contractor because you have to fire them, and your business is gonna go to shit. And so on the same note, make sure that you're not afraid to fire quickly. The faster you make these types of decisions, the better off you'll be, both you and the clients and the contractor. Everyone is gonna lose when you keep bad people in your business. But yeah, honestly, I'm not that talented. People called me smart in school, but like when I started business for the first time, I realized that I was terrible at business. Like this was the one area that I just had zero talent in. When it came to marketing, when it came to like operations, when it came to like just mindset, I sucked at literally everything. That's why it took me 3 years to build my first business that made me 10K a month. Like there's literally guys in my server who are more than 10 years younger than me that are making more money than me and progressing way faster than I did when I was just starting out business for the first time myself. And they didn't spend nearly as much as I did when it comes to courses and coaching and all that stuff. So if that's you, like you're just starting out, you're 15 or 18 or 20, 25 or 30, it's absolutely possible for you. It took me so long just to like be decent at business and marketing. And even now, I still feel like a complete beginner compared to a bunch of other people in my space. So again, if you just follow the things I talk to you about, like you will get there, right? But it's not going to be easy. It does take a lot of hard work. And at this point, I've seen dozens and dozens of guys, in my server trying to build their agencies for the first time. And the number one thing I see that separates the winners from the losers is that the winners put in the work every single day. They don't take days off. They're always, doing outreach. They're always prospecting. They're always doing sales calls, and they just don't stop until they get the job done. And so they're not doing shit like, spending a week building a website, spending like 3 days coming up with a logo or a name for their agency. So if that's you, sorry, but not sorry. Like get your shit together and start doing the real work. So yeah, it's definitely not too late to start an agency in 2023. But again, just like everything else, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to put in the work, but it's going to be worth it.